Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my 2020 deck collection and declutter series. Today we are going to be looking at my modern and relatable decks. And as a reminder, during this collection and declutter series, essentially what I'm doing is sharing with you all my decks from a particular category, deciding if any of those can be potentially rehomed, so that I can just kind of refine, check in, and share everything with you guys. So let's dive in. So first off, I'm just pulling from the pile in no particular order. I have the Amethyst Oracle. This is by Jessica Bott, the creator of the Idiosyncra deck, which is currently out of print. I really love this Oracle deck. I actually just recently was working with it and I paired it with my Badass Baby Unicorns deck, which is not in this pile. It'll be in another pile, but that particular pairing didn't go as well as I might have hoped, but I have paired this with other decks, including my Ellis deck, and other decks that have this more flat kind of vector style of graphic, and it does really, really well. In general, it's a surprisingly balanced Oracle deck, despite the fact that it doesn't have a ton of cards, and this is one of those Oracle decks too that works really great in spreads because it is balanced. And cards like this one, Chai, at first you're like, what does that mean? I only read this deck intuitively. There's not even a guidebook with it, but I've never had any trouble. Like, Chai to me is like spicy, warm, comfort, and so it's all contextual based on the question, based on the spread position or the reading, and I absolutely love it. I think it's incredibly well thought out, and there's just some cards in here that I absolutely adore, and I really do like this style of graphic. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And this card just is so satisfying to me. But yeah, I really, really enjoy it. This is definitely not leaving my collection anytime soon. And there is a chance that there's going to be a revamp of the Idiosyncra deck in the future. Jessica is working on it very, very slowly. No expectations on timeline, but someday that's going to come back out in some format. I think it's going to be called the Jessica Tarot or the Jessica Bott Tarot. When it does, I'm sure I will be snapping it up, but until then, I will enjoy this little beauty. So that's a keep. Next up is my beloved Textured Tarot. This is also a very long-time favorite and a deck that I find to be really enjoyable. The cards are modern, and I find them to be really accessible, and this deck reads so beautifully in an intuitive way, and there's a lot of inclusiveness in this deck. I feel like it reflects the world that we live in. While it's modern, it doesn't feel modern in a jarring way. It feels modern in a, like this guy or girl, this is totally could be a gender neutral person. This person doesn't feel jarringly modern. Like, I'm not seeing people necessarily in business suits. I could be wrong. Watch, I'll get a business suit card. Excuse me, but here, like here, for example, you can tell this person is wearing modern clothing, but it's in profile. I have given some incredibly wonderful intuitive reads. I love this card, of course. Some really, really wonderful intuitive reads with this deck. Adore this High Priestess card. It just works really well. My main gripe with this deck is the cardstock, because it's a really thick, I think it's like a 400 plus GSM. There's literally no give to it. So unfortunately, when you shuffle it, I like to riffle. My copy is edged in this charcoal gray to match the backs. I like to riffle shuffle this deck, but I've learned to be incredibly careful. It's almost more of a drop than a bend, and I can't bridge it. I have to just slide them together, or I have to hand over hand, because I tried to bridge this deck, and I do have in here somewhere a card that has been completely creased. But this deck really is true to its name. Oh, there's a suit. See, I told you. There are actual textures. It's hard to describe, but in the artwork you can tell there's like fabrics that were used. It wasn't just flat collage work. Oh, I'm back to the beginning again. But there's just, it's hard to describe. There's texture, but as an intuitive reader, there's just a ton to actually see in the artwork. I think I'm repeating cards now, but yeah, anyway, I can't spend a bazillion hours on each deck, but I want to. The guidebook is really good, but to be honest, I can't tell you that I've used it that much. I just really like using the artwork. Reads great. It's worked great for client readings. I've taken this to shops with me before, and it's a really good go-to deck and a longtime favorite, so I'm definitely not rehoming that guy. Okay, next up we have the Sun and Moon Tarot, and this deck, I've had this one for a while. This is by Vanessa DeCourt. It comes with a little white book like this. I did trim my deck, so this used to be bordered and quite a bit bigger. I took all the borders off. I edged it in black. And this was a scissor trim, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty decent, I feel like. They're even-ish. It hand over hands really, really great. It's a nice cardstock. I believe this is a US Games. Yeah, it's a US Games deck. You can also get this deck in the tin version, but the tin version is bordered and even smaller. I trimmed all the keywords off. I think it reads great right out of the box as a Rider-Waite-Smith clone type deck. This is another one that pairs really well with the Amethyst Oracle because it's, again, that more flat sort of almost vector style graphic. It's got a little more depth to it, oops, than that, but it's pretty flat. This is a great little deck, and it's really easy in a spread to see the different elements. Man, when I put this in the pile, I thought this one might be a candidate for decluttering, but I'm not sure I can really bring myself to get rid of it. Again, you can see that it's modern, it's relatable, it reflects the world that we live in to some degree. There are also, as I understand it, this deck also has, is Thoth based, but I don't have the Thoth keywords on there, so I don't really see that anymore. There is an issue in the sense that, like, you have your, I believe your knights are in Thoth. I think the knights are kind of like the kings rank-wise. It's confusing. But it's such a great deck. I don't know. I'm going to put this in my... I don't know. I really don't know. It's really the quartz that throw me on this, but that's mostly because I'm not as familiar with Thoth, and so... but then again, I can just treat the kings as kings, the knights as knights, the pages as pages, etc. So there's a knight. Nope, that's the chariot card. But the knights are in these like little chariot-like things. Yeah, like here's the Knight of Cups on a dolphin. But where's my kings? I'm just wondering. See, like that's the Page of Swords. Where are the kings in this deck? Are they actually seated on thrones, or are these the knights and then the chariot ones are the kings? See, this is what throws me. I think the kings... You know what? It's actually been so long since I've worked with this deck that I like legitimately can't even remember. But I think the kings might be the ones on these like chariot-like things, because I don't think there's actually any seated kings. Or queens, now that I think about it. In fact, I actually don't know where the queens are in this deck either. Wow, it has been a while since I've worked with this. So I'm just bringing you along for the ride while I try to remind myself. I actually think this might be a deck that I consider rehoming. I mean, obviously I'm not as bonded to it, or I would remember a lot of those little details, and this is still mass market, so I could potentially always repurchase it in the tin format. It is a really well done deck, and it's got a lot of depth to it, and the symbology is very clear and easy to spot. I gotta stop talking about it. I'm gonna put it aside and think about it, because I'm not sure, but I might be ready to let that one go. We will see. Okay, next up is the Fountain Tarot. This is another modern deck, and by modern, by the way, I mean like the style of dress. Oftentimes the decks that I would consider as more modern are also more reflective of the world we live in, so they have a lot more racial diversity, sometimes age and body size diversity. The Fountain Tarot is just an absolutely stunning deck. These are oil paintings that have been put into the tarot, and there's a lot of detail. This is such a beautiful deck. I don't think I could see myself letting this one go. It's got a silver gilding. This is the mass market version, and this cardstock is just an absolute dream to shuffle. It's like a classic, like the decks that you got in the 90s. It's like that, but it's gilded. I would have loved this deck not gilded too, to be honest. I don't know that the gilding necessarily adds anything to it, but I just love how clean and crisp and clear the messages are that I get from this deck. I find the characters in it to be really relatable, and I feel like the meanings come through really loud and clear with this deck. I've never had any trouble reading with it intuitively, and it's been such a big part of my tarot journey. I couldn't possibly see myself rehoming this, particularly at this point. Really expressive people and quartz. Yeah, it's just really, really great. And it really shines in person when you can get up close and personal with the cards. And this, I'm sorry, is forever Gordon Ramsay to me. This is the only thing I will say. A painted deck like this with this much almost photorealism in the paint style means that if you do recognize a person in the cards, if they look like somebody you know from TV or just from your life, you will forever see them in that card. And that one card that I think it's the 7 of Pentacles or the 8 of Pentacles is always Gordon Ramsay to me. He looks just exactly like Gordon Ramsay, and I can't see past it. And I don't mind because it actually works with the meaning of the cards, but still, it's just a thing to be aware of, particularly with decks like this. But it's just really well done. And this little guidebook is like a really high quality, like linen cover, and lots of great information in the guidebook. And it's just a really nice deck, a nice set. And this is published by roostbooks.com, and as far as I know, is still available. I will have links to decks down below, but this one is definitely staying in my collection. Next up is the Bonfire Tarot. So this one is also modern, and it's based on a tattoo style of artwork. This is by, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the artist's name? Oh my gosh, it's an Australian artist. This was originally an independent deck, but this is the mass market. Gabby Angus West. Oh my gosh, that was bugging me. Okay, Gabby Angus West. This deck is so vibrant and so beautiful. Yes, it's modern. However, it's very, very wonderful to read with intuitively. It's actually one of my favorites for love-based readings where we're looking at tumultuous relationships or we're looking at intensity or passion. I've used it both for long-term relationships and for like on-again, off-again kind of relationships. But I find there's a lot of emotion in these cards, and there's so much that comes through from a passion perspective. I think that if I needed to do a reading for a client on matters of, say, creativity or losing one's spark, this would also be a really good one to kind of check in on what's happening with your passion. I did not expect to love this deck as much as I do, to be completely honest, when I first got it, but I am a sucker for really vibrant colors, and this deck really comes through in that aspect. And all of the little symbols and things just give me stuff to dig into as an intuitive reader, and I love that. To be fair, I actually very rarely reach for the guidebook with this deck. I just love working with it exactly as it is. And I just want to keep looking at it. That's the one thing about making these videos, is I just want to look and look and look and look and look. But yes, this is the Bonfire Tarot by Gabby Angus West, and it's just gorgeous. As far as I know, it is still currently available, and it's just a good one. It's just a really, really good one. Definitely keeping. I don't know that I'm going to get rid of much in this category, you guys, because I don't have that many modern decks. Okay. Next up is the Oracle of Echoes by Amethyst, and there's no way you're going to get this out of my hands ever. I shouldn't say ever, you never know, but these are what the backings look like. And hi, poppies, red flowers, black flowers, perfect bag match. Anyway, actually at the time that I'm filming this, Amethyst, the artist of this deck, is also currently working on the Tarot of Echoes, and I cannot wait to have that as a combination with this deck. I will be scooping that up as soon as it's available. Ametyst's art style is very flowy and dreamy. It's very emotive. She's also the creator of a tarot deck called the Scrying Ink. I think it's called this. No, not the Scrying Ink. I'm so sorry. It's basically an ink blot style tarot, but I forget the name of it. Oh, dang it. Nope, I can't remember the name of it. Somebody's going to be yelling at the screen. Feel free to put it in the comments down below and help the rest of us out. I've almost purchased it a couple of times. I ultimately decided it wasn't for me, but I love this deck. And this is probably other than the Tao Oracle, this is one of the first Oracle decks I ever got my hands on that felt truly balanced. There's a good balance of both light and shadow in this deck. This card makes me almost cry every time I see it. So cards like Discord. This is a really good one, again, for relationship readings because it does look at things that are relevant to relationships, but it's just good in general. I don't think I've ever had a situation where this deck couldn't come through with something helpful, and it's just beautiful. So love this deck. Someday I need to edge it. You can see it's seen a lot of use, and I don't see myself ditching this anytime soon, but yeah, it's very modern. You can tell people where they exist have modern dress, that sort of thing. Love this deck. Love this deck. Oracle of Echoes by Anna Turian. Definitely keeping. Oh boy. Okay. Next up is the Awakened Soul Tarot. This is the second edition by Ethany. I recently, or at least at the time I'm filming this, it was recent, did an unboxing of this new second edition on my channel. My favorite modern oracle deck to pair with my modern tarot decks. As a general oracle for pairing, like just a really expansive, useful, love this card. Oracle deck to pair with some of my favorite modern tarot decks. It's just perfect. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just, oh my gosh, I love this card so much. For Judgment. Oh. It's very well thought out. There's a lot of ground covered in this deck. And again, it's one of those decks that I feel like represents, really shows the world that I live in with a good variety of people and genders and personalities. This is more female presenting centric for sure. I feel like the first, there's like a more masculine looking figure possibly there. Oh nope, that's a ponytail, so that's still potentially female. But again, we're talking, when I'm saying that, I am saying, meaning like feminine presenting or female presenting versus male presenting. The first edition did have a couple more cards that looked more masculine in nature that did get swapped out for more feminine presenting cards. But I do still feel like this deck tends to represent the world that we live in. I love this card. I love this card so much. But it just really, really works. And again, it's a very relatable deck, so it's wonderful for client work. I think it's easy for a lot of people to see themselves here, at least see themselves in this world. So I really love that. And the guidebook for this deck is also really, really good. And the same size as the cards, so it can live with the cards in my little bag here. It also comes in a really, really nice box, actually. But I do like to hang my decks up on my wall, so in the bag it goes. So that's a keeper. Man, I'm not doing great here as far as decluttering. Okay, next up, this is Poppy Palin's Everyday Enchantments Tarot. Oh man, this deck. So I have kind of an on-again, off-again relationship with this deck. It was probably, my copy is trimmed. I don't love the edge job that I did, actually. It's a little too dark for what I wanted. I wanted it to more match these, like the borders on the cards here, and the colors I picked were a little too dark. But it does look so much better without the borders. So originally it had this purple border all the way around, and the borders are color-coded. So you have purple for the swords, which are called blades in this deck, red borders for the wands, black for the major arcana, blue for the cups, and then of course green for the pentacles or coins in this suit. This is a really richly illustrated modern deck. Yeah, I don't think I can rehome this. I don't know if I'd be able to rehome very many of my modern decks in general, just because I don't feel like I have as many of them. And it's really nice to have decks like this to read for clients, because the sheer diversity in a lot of these more modern decks just really help clients to see themselves. We have differently abled bodies in this deck, different ages, lots of great like cultural and racial diversity. It just looks more, again, representative of the world that we actually live in. This is a nice sized deck. It was really kind of giant with its borders, but trimmed, it really works. This is one of the Judgment cards that really helped, I think, to clarify what Judgment means, at least as I read it. Wow. And it's really good. It's just really good. And this is another underrated deck. This is probably, I think I've talked about this card before. This is like my favorite lovers cards. Favorite lovers card, just because you have this elderly couple in the front, you have different other things happening in the background with different kinds of couples, including the two swans. Yeah, and I'd say of all of my modern decks, this is the one that has the most like age diversity throughout the deck. It's not just like one sort of older person, but you get like just sort of middle-aged, young people, older people all through the deck. It just feels a lot more, yeah, I don't think any of my other decks do that quite this well. Yeah, this doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. And as far as I know, it is still in print, but it's really important, I think, that when we see decks like this that just do something different, that we do what we can to support them. This one is so good. Okay, sorry, I'm getting lost in the artwork, and I've still got a few decks to talk about. So this one's a keeper. Oh boy. Okay, next up is the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann Donnelly. So this actually is the independent version. I did back this on Kickstarter. You can also get the mass market version of this deck. I am so glad that this is the version that I have. I love it. I love the cardstock. I love the diversity and the boho sort of feel of this deck. I think it does just an amazing job of being relatable, being really vivid and beautifully illustrated. I was just so excited for this deck to come out, and I'm so grateful to have it. The mass market version is done very, very well, and I think actually that cardstock is really nice to shuffle. This one, again, this version is out of print with the green edges, but I've seen people edge their mass market versions and they look just as nice. This one, the independent version did come with a beefier guidebook, but I think that's really the only difference. And as far as I understand, Hay House, that did publish the mass market, did just a beautiful job with it. So I think it's very well worth purchasing as a mass market deck, but it's so emotive. Like, look at this Three of Swords. I just think Chris Ann Donnelly did an incredible job with this deck in general. So, so beautiful. Love this Eight of Swords. And actually, you know what this makes me realize is that this depiction of the Eight of Swords is one of the reasons why I'm kind of going on a bit of a sidetrack, but I think I might, because of this card, actually, believe it or not, I might reconsider my Anna K Tarot, possibly passing that on, because there's actually, I'm going to grab it, there's actually a mirror. Uh-oh, I bumped my camera. One of the reasons why I'm so attached to my Anna K, sorry, I know I'm totally like sidetracking my own video, but one of the things I'm really attached to about the Anna K is the Eight of Swords. No, I still love this deck too. I thought maybe with the Light Seers, yeah, here it is. So you can kind of see this version of seeing yourself bound in the mirror but not bound in real life. This takes it in its modern, this takes it in its more medieval. Gosh, do I really need both of those decks though, when they do things so similarly? No, I can't get rid of my Anna K. I was like, maybe I can rehome this deck, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I just thought maybe with that card I could think about it, but nope. But I do love my Light Seers Tarot, and it is a favorite for working with clients. It works really well. I've had clients respond really well to it. Very emotive, wonderful, I think, for love and relationships or familial relationship kind of readings. It's just really, really good. And I would definitely reach for this over my Anna K, I would say. I can't bring myself to let go of my Anna K. I can't bring myself to let go of this one. So we're not really decluttering much today, guys. Sorry. So, okay, the last one that I think is, I put this in Modern and Relatable because I think this one still comes off pretty modern. This is a Curious Oracle. My copy is number 98 of 100 out of the 2018 printing, which I believe was the 3rd edition. I'm not entirely sure. There is a current edition, and I think the current edition on the backings has some metallic on the keys. Or I mean the 4th, I think it'll be the 4th. I don't remember what edition, but the current edition I think has some foil detailing. These are so, so lovely. So the creator of these is Holly DeCourt, I believe. I don't want to get her name wrong. Yep, or Holly DeFount. Holly DeFount. These are so stunning. These are just a joy to work with. There's something about this art that just I absolutely love. It's a really wonderful intuitive reader. There is a whole system behind it. I love the Memento Mori card. But there's just enough about it that's modern. Or I'm full of crap, because actually I'm not seeing anything modern. Well, there's a statue. Yeah, there's some like landmark kind of things that come through that are just ever so slightly modern. I mean, this isn't that modern, to be fair. I didn't know what category to put this one in, but here we are. That's a little bit, I guess it's like a pier, but this is so beautiful. It's small, but it's just a really lovely oracle deck, and I've enjoyed reading with it. I feel like there's a lot to it. You get a title on each card, and then there's also like a keyword at the bottom. So the anchor, stability, the green woman, nature, moonrise is illumination, The goal is journey. So this just reads really, really well. I suppose I probably could have put this in my Lenormand or Lenormand-like decks, but I don't know. I tend to read it more like a regular Oracle deck. So, but I do work with it mostly intuitively. Again, it's called A Curious Oracle by Holly DeFount, and it's lovely. Again, I will try to remember to have links to everything down below. So I definitely want to keep this one. Oh boy. And lastly is my absolute favorite deck. I would say as far as like working with decks in general go, especially decks to reach for client work, this is my number one. This is my number one. I don't know that even my Mons Tarot, which I call my soul deck, doesn't come out to play as often as this deck does, because it's just, it is the deck that I feel like my clients and myself can just see ourselves in. I don't think, it's done so well. I don't even know where to start. The guidebook is incredible. It's so good. And if you search on my channel, if I remember, I'll link it, but if you search on my channel for a tarot by the book example with this deck, you'll see what I mean. But it is so good. I mean, in essence, it really is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck at heart. Very traditional scenes, and yet there's places where it just goes its own way, like with the knights and their vehicles. The court cards in here are so good. They're so good, and they're so expressive. There's a lot of body diversity through this deck. There is so much here. It is so well done. Now mine has the black holographic fonts, there we go, there's the rainbow. And I believe at the time I'm filming this, you can get this deck with gold edging, you can get it with this black holographic edging, or you can get it with a pearlized edging, which is like a white holographic, which seems just stunning. But I absolutely love this deck. I love it so much. I love it so much. Yeah. Maybe I can let my Anna Kay go. Maybe I can. I don't know. I have to think about it some more. I may actually put it in a maybe pile, in my Anna Kay that is, and revisit it at the end of this whole deck collection declutter series and just see where I end up. But let's revisit the only deck out of the whole pile of modern and relatable decks that I set aside for possibly rehoming. It is the Sun and Moon Tarot. Let's take another look. And I think I can let this deck go. And I think I'm going to. Because as beautiful as this deck is, there's too many others that I like better. And this one is always going to basically be second fiddle, and that's not fair. I think I need to pass this one along, so I am going to put it in my to be considered for rehoming pile. And as I've mentioned in my other videos, but in case you haven't seen it, how that works for me is I will set decks like this aside for a little while and I'll think about it. I'll see if I miss them, if I think I might miss them, and if I do, then I'll pull them, I'll bring them back into my collection, and won't rehome them. But if I've sat with it for a while and I still feel like, yeah, I'm good with it, then I'll let them go. And I just think that's a good way to do it, because if you're too hasty about sending things on, then you can have regrets, and then like me, you might end up bringing things back into your collection that you've previously rehomed, and there's no point in doing that. So I think I'm probably going to pass this on, but I'm definitely going to put it in the pile. And I'm going to put my Anna Kay Tarot for now in a bit of a maybes pile I have going for consideration at a later time. And we'll see. So thank you all so much for joining this part of my 2020 deck collection and declutter series. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe if you are not already, so that you don't miss my future videos. And as always, if you would like to book a tarot reading with me, you can do that over at www.supportivetarot.com. Thanks guys, bye!